Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality. So subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So earlier on, I was out to dinner with a new friend that I made recently. And that got me thinking, like, what is the difference between friendship, love, and infatuation? I have to say this friend is a younger foreign guy. And as you know, I do get attracted to younger foreign guys, but no, we're not suitable for a relationship. We're very, very different. But it got me thinking, like, what is it that makes a difference between friendship feelings for someone, love feelings for someone, and infatuation for someone? And I know this is something that asexuals probably really struggle with, as well as a lot of other sexual orientations. Like, how do you discern, like, when you just have friendship feelings for someone, when you actually love someone, and when you're infatuated by someone? So let's break this down. So friendship, this is kind of hard because a lot of asexuals, the majority of asexuals don't experience sexual attraction. A lot lack sexual attraction. So asexuality is a spectrum ranging from those who are having no sexual attraction whatsoever. These are the pure asexuals. They don't experience any sexual attraction at all, to the great asexuals who do experience sexual attraction, but only under limited, rare or specific circumstances, or they experience it but not enough to want to act on it. That's kind of like the two types of asexuals: pure asexuals, grey asexuals. But grey asexual can actually be a catch-all term for someone who fits between asexual and sexual as well. So I just want to keep it very clear and plain and simple. There are pure asexuals and grey asexuals. Pure asexuals experience no sexual attraction whatsoever. Grey asexuals can experience some, but it's not the usual amount, if that makes sense. And you can get romantic asexuals and non-romantic asexuals called aromantics, right? So aromantics, for example, those who lack romantic attraction, and if they're an aromantic asexual, because you can get aromantic sexuals as well, this is a person who lacks romantic attraction as well as sexual attraction. Now, those type of people, the aromantics, if they want a relationship, they usually want something called a queer platonic relationship, which often basically is a deep bestest friendship, but they would usually do more with this person than they would do in an actual ordinary friendship. So whereas a lot of other sexualities, for example, heterosexuals, if they just liked someone as a friend, they wouldn't, just as a friend, right? They wouldn't usually experience sexual attraction towards them. However, a lot of heterosexuals still experience sexual attraction towards their friends. But if they think about the difference between friendship, love, and infatuation, for asexuals, this is harder because it's harder for some asexuals to discern between friendship and love, because some asexuals love their friends. And whatever sexual orientation you are, you can love your friends. But when we dive deeper, asexuals, for example, they're aromantic and asexual, those who lack romantic attraction, sexual attraction, if they get into an actual relationship, usually that's the deepest, bestest ever friendship with more physical contact, more expectations, if you like, and they could have a relationship without the social norms of romance. They may share a bed, they may share a household together, they may work out chores together, if you like, household chores. They may live like they're having a relationship like anyone else, just they don't have the actual sexual, they don't have, excuse me, I just need to hide someone on the channel because I'm not having people that are being rude on my channel. So they don't experience, so someone who doesn't experience sexual attraction or romantic attraction, they can still have relationships if they want them, but that would look more like a deepest, bestest ever friendship, that they love this person, and it's more than the usual type of friendship they would feel with other people. Hi, Jonathan, lovely to see you. So they can actually have relationships, but they don't have a romantic inclination, usually aromantic asexuals. So they would love their friend like, for example, a romantic person would love their romantic partner, but it would be in a more platonic, deep, bestest connection, friendship way. Having said this, the foundation of all relationships, no matter what sexuality you are, what sexual orientation you are, is friendship. If you don't have friendship, a proper, true, grounded friendship in any relationship, whether that's romantic or sexual or non-romantic, it's not likely to last or be very deep, because you need that deep friendship in order for that relationship to flourish. A healthy relationship is based on at least two people, if you're monogamous, two people wanting to grow a relationship together. You know, like a seed, it blooms and blossoms. You need basically, you know, water and soil and light and various ingredients. Well, it's basically two people that are building something together, like a house. They're building the bricks of the house together, and they both want to grow and support each other and work as a team to build something. So I'm in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club, and one thing he's always telling us is you need to find a builder, someone who wants to build a future with you if you want to get into a relationship with them. However, you can still love your friends without actually being in a relationship with them. So how do we discern between friendship, someone we should just be friends with, and someone we really truly love, as in the sense we want to be in a relationship, rather than the platonic love or the bestest friendship love? How do we discern the difference? Well, if say you want to be in a relationship with someone, let's look at this, right? So say you're assessing someone, you've met someone, and or you've been friends with someone for a while, right? And you're trying to discern, do I want to love romantic, for example, relationship? Or obviously it doesn't have to be romantic, but do I want to love relationship? Do I want more than friendship? Or do I just want to be friends with this person? Like, what would my feelings be like? Well, if you just want a friendship with someone, then you're fine if they go and have a relationship with someone else. You don't generally need to spend as much time with them. You're okay if you see them now and again, depending how much your friendship is. Like, I have a best friend and we message each other every day. We're very best friends, but there's no relationship there. So with asexuals as well, particularly, some of us really need a lot of communication even with our friends, because a lot of us are single as well in the asexual community. Our friends really matter to us. So we might spend more time loving our friends, if you like, in a friendship love way. And also, in general, we might just like want to spend more time with our friends because we are single, and so we don't focus on relationships as much. That's for some of us. But those of us who are romantic in nature, how do we discern? So if we just want to be friends with someone, maybe it could be like we don't have any attraction for them whatsoever. I think this is very rare. I think if you're a romantic person particularly, and if you're not asexual watching this, I think usually one person out of a friendship has attraction at least to the other person. I don't believe there are many people in this world that don't have attraction to another person. I just don't believe that. I think if you're aromantic and platonic, yes, more likely. But if you're romantic in nature or sexual in nature, I think that is where you're more likely to actually be attracted to a friend. However, it doesn't mean to say you want a love relationship and to be in a relationship with that person, even if you have feelings for them or attraction. So what's the difference? Like, what's the difference? Like, say someone comes along, like, do you want to be friends with them or do you want to be in a love romantic relationship? Like, how do you discern? Well, like I said, friendship, you want to be friends with them. You may want to be like in close contact, but usually if you want a love romantic relationship, you be in more contact. You'd want to chat to them. You'd think about them a lot throughout the day. You'd want to talk to them a lot, probably message them a lot, maybe video or audio call them a lot. You want a lot more contact with someone usually if you want to be in a relationship with them. If you think about a relationship, like, could you actually picture yourself waking up next to them, sleeping next to them, kissing them, holding their hands, cuddling, all this type of thing, which usually with just a friend you wouldn't do. However, there are some people in the asexual community that do hug their friends, that do sit up on the sofa and cuddle their friends. This is where it blurs the line, because in traditional, say, heteronormative relationships, when I thought I was heterosexual for years before I discovered I'm asexual, it's not normal for two friends to cuddle up on the couch together holding hands unless they're in a relationship or attracted to each other or having a casual relationship or something's going on in terms of like an underlying situationship. It's more than a friendship, in other words. But there are some people in the asexual community that do go holding hands and sit on sofas with each other, and that I know this happens. I don't personally agree with that as a romantic asexual. That would be crossing the boundaries. I wouldn't do that type of thing with my friend. But there are some people that do that in the asexual community, so I have to accept that that's the case, right? But in general, things that were reserved for a love romantic relationship would be holding hand, would be kissing, would be cuddling. You'd want to spend more time with that person. They'd be on your mind a lot. And one of the telltale signs is, can you actually envisage yourself in a long-term relationship with that person, like day and night? Like if you were to be like locked up in a room with that person for weeks on end, months on end, would you actually be able to be with that person, you know, in their personality, in their character, with their character traits, in their mannerisms, with their habits? Do you accept the good parts and the bad parts? Do you crave their company? Do you go places, different places, but you still wish you would be with them, or they were with you in that moment? Do you think about them like regularly? Are they the last thing on your mind and the first thing you think about when you wake up? Obviously, if you've got an anxious personality, like anxious attachment, you can still be a bit like this with your friends. You can still like think about, oh, why hasn't my friend messaged me? If you've got anxious attachment style, for example, why hasn't my friend messaged me? You know, I'd love to hear from my friend because I might like to feel close to my friends if it's a close friend, right? If it's a more of a distance friend or not so close friend, then it might be like every few days I hear from them. It's still nice to hear from them. I like to hear from them, right? So it's degrees of friendship. You know, you might have a more of acquaintance friendship where you only message each other like every few days or whatever, or once a week, or even some people only message once or twice a month, right? So, but if you want to actually be in a relationship with someone, it's, can you see that person with someone else and be really happy? Of course, if you like that person as a friend, you'd want to be happy for them that they are actually in a relationship, because if that's what makes them happy, that's fine. But if there's an aching inside of you that thinks that should be me, I should be the one that's kissing them, I should be the one that's telling them good night, kissing them good night, I should be the one that's like cooking with them and cleaning with them, I should be the one that's looking after them, I should be the one that is there with them in their good times and bad times. It's me that should be there by their side, not someone else. So you're not coming from a horrible point of view, like a possessive point of view or jealous point of view. You just think that you should naturally be with that person. Then that's like more of a love relationship thing. So someone says, oh, hi Daisy, hi darling, how are you doing this evening? It's I'm okay. I had a meal out with a friend a few hours ago, so that's kind of what inspired me for this video. So but I'm having a difficult time personally with other stuff that's going on, so cheered me up the meal actually. But I can't really talk about that stuff, so but thank you for asking. So still having a hard time with my health as well. But anyway, getting back to the stream. So in terms of like infatuation, how do you know if it's infatuation? So I've had a lot of guys that get infatuated with me in the past, right? And infatuation compared to like love and friendship, infatuation is someone that's not really wanting to get to know you so much, maybe on a deep level. I think there's a couple of types of infatuation. One is infatuation where you see someone online and you're so infatuated. It's like I don't do crushes. I don't really understand what a crush feels like because I don't experience that. But I know, I've heard from other asexuals what it's like, basically. And I kind of understand that infatuation can be that you go on their social media and you literally stalk their social media all the time. And you go on their social media. So you're always looking at them on social media, you look on their Facebook, you look on their Instagram, you look on their YouTube, you're like stalking them online, right? That could be infatuation. Having said this, if you do think about having a relationship with someone and you do miss them when you're away from them, then you might still be looking at their social media anyway. But basically, if you love the person, have friendship for them, you want to see them outside of their social media. You want to be with them, spending time, going out on day trips, for example, meeting up for food and drink, going to spend time with them at their worst. So say they got a hospital appointment or a doctor's appointment, you might want to be with them then. So does friends, right? I've had my best friend come with me to a doctor's appointment. So some of these overlap, but infatuation is when you like the ideology of the person, you like the fantasy of the person, but you don't like the reality when it comes, if it comes. So say someone got into a relationship and with you, and if you're infatuated, basically that would mean that you like the idea of them, they got into a relationship with you, but the novelty wore off because it was excitement for you, it was the thrill of the chase and the thrill of actually being with this person and the thrill of, you know, the excitement of that newness of relationship. So that's why it's better to get to know someone as a friend first, and get to spend time with them and get to know their personality and stuff like that. Because if you grow a friendship first before anything else, you are more likely not to be infatuated with that person. Infatuation usually happens very quickly, where the person comes into your life, you're both really attracted to each other. Maybe you don't know that much about each other. Maybe you don't know the good points and bad points, and you don't know that much. And then you kind of get together, and it's all this excitement and fireworks is going off. Like, this is the best person ever in my life. I feel I'm really connected to this person. And you get together, and you're like, one person. If one person's infatuated, if you're both infatuated, then you kind of have the same issue. But usually, I find it's just one person that's infatuated. The other one has stronger feelings. And then or they might just have friendship and the other person be infatuated, but there's usually one predominant person that's infatuated, and it will, like, when they get that person in a relationship, the novelty wears off, because basically it's a fantasy, it's not the reality. So it's the thing that they tell themselves, like, oh, I'd love to be with this person, she's so hot, she's so sexy. I'm just saying, she could be anyone. Like, I'm attracted to guys, actually, but just say it was a guy saying, she's so hot, she's so sexy, really want to be with her and do whatever to her, that a lot of heterosexual guys would say, for example. You know, and I really, really, like, you know, admire this and this, and they put kind of the person on a pedestal, and they fantasize about being in a relationship with them, and then when they actually get in the relationship, they're not really bothered. It's like deflation, and they're not really that interested in the person's personality. They're more likely, oh, I like them on a superficial level, and they're really not that. They're really not that. Oh, someone says, Daisy, I popped in to see how the lovely lady's doing as I'm working shortly. Oh, thank you, Daisy. I love you for being here. So, oh, you said try not to stress too much on the issues I've got going on personally. Yeah, it's really, really hard, actually. But it's a bit like my world's crashing down in private at the moment, but I'm sure hopefully it'll be all right. But yeah, I got a lot going on, but I'm still smiling. Someone said to me the other day, despite all your health challenges, you're still smiling. I'm like, yeah, I'm still smiling because I'm a warm person, you know? So anyway, going back to the infatuation thing, infatuation is literally like you are in love, if you like, or in fantasy mode with the fantasy. But when it comes to reality and being with someone on a day-to-day basis, day in, day out, and being there for them at the worst, you don't want that. You really didn't sign up for that. You just wanted a fantasy. It's like when someone idolizes a pop star or a rock star or a film star or a musician. You know, they idolize them, and they're like, oh, I really want to be with them. I really want to be with them. And they like their hair and their looks, and they'll go all around the houses trying to maybe stalk them and find posters of them and see them. But if it was to be a real thing, then they wouldn't really want that. That's like traditional infatuation. Now, I know some asexuals, because asexuality is a huge spectrum. You could find some asexuals that have a certain type of asexual attraction, and it means that, you know, they might experience something, but then not later. So, for example, there's fray romantic. Fray romantic means, well, there's fray sexual and there's fray romantic. But basically, when they experience romantic attraction for someone, and the other person reciprocates, they stop experiencing that romantic attraction. So we mustn't confuse infatuation with fray romantic, which is actually part of the asexual spectrum. It's a grey part of the asexual spectrum. So there are some nuances to this, because asexuality kind of can cross boundaries of these things. Then it's harder for asexuals, I think, to discern sometimes between friendship, love, and infatuation. But I think if you think of infatuation as like idolizing, idolizing something, and it being like you really would like to, you feel warm and you would really fuzzy maybe when you see their photographs, you really like to spend time with them, and you look up to them and you idolize them. But actually, in reality, even if you got into a relationship, it would be very short-lived, because you don't want the actual reality of the relationship. If you ever got into with that person, you might be with them for just a few weeks, for example, because you didn't really like them as a person. It was the infatuation of the story you tell yourself in your head about them, not the reality that is actually in front of you. Does that make sense? And then in terms of love and friendship, love is more than friendship, obviously, but friends can love each other as well. But friendship, and in terms of like romantic love is different to like friendship love. So friendship love, you might have a lot of similar feelings in the sense that you want to spend time with them, you care about that person. But when it's romantic love, and you're a romantic asexual as opposed to an aromantic asexual. So aromantic asexuals with friendship, that can be a whole nother level. That can be as powerful and as strong as romantic love, right? So it's kind of different. You can't really compare the two because aromantic asexuals that don't experience romantic attraction or sexual attraction, their friendship and the love they feel for their friends is really like their primal focus. It's as strong really as romantic attraction is to romantics. But if we take a romantic person and discern the difference between whether they should just be friends with someone or where they love someone, a friendship has to happen with any healthy relationship anyway. I have to let that be known. But when someone loves someone, as opposed to infatuate, they want to know more smaller details about the person. So they'd want to know more about the person's personality. They'd be asking them questions about their life, their hobbies, their interests. They'd be diving in more about the character traits of the person. So the fantasy is more like it's more like a fact sheet, like a pop star. You tick off as much as you know, like a fact sheet, and you like their voice and stuff like that. But it's more like you've got stars in your eyes. You know what I mean? And then it's thank you, Daisy, for being here. Lots of love. And so and then what was I saying? Oh, Daisy's saying smile. I love that. Keep smiling. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, and so what you've got to remember is like, if you have a person in your life, right, and you're really good friends with them, but you feel more friendship for them, you might find that you don't want to be without them in your life. So, for example, you can always be friends with them. That's true. But if you were to get into a relationship with someone else, you cannot be in a relationship with that person. So if in your mind you're like, okay, I don't want to be in a relationship with any other person because then I'd miss out being in a relationship with that person, that is really when you're looking at love. If you've got all the other things, like if you're paying attention to the personality, the character traits of the person, getting to know them on a deep fundamental level, like what their hobbies, their interests are, what makes them tick, what their emotions are, what their feelings are, what they actually are in their soul. This includes the good stuff and the bad stuff, the stuff you do like and the stuff you don't like, because fantasy is usually born on all the stuff you like and not really the stuff you don't like. So when you love someone, you kind of love more things that maybe you wouldn't love usually about someone because you really care about the person, you really want to be with that person. And you might actually accept some things about them that you wouldn't usually accept. Now, there is debate about whether that's lowering your standards or whether that's just tolerating behavior. Now, you should never tolerate bad behavior. If someone is abusive, you should not be tolerating abuse or anything like this. If, however, you get into a relationship with someone, you love someone, you might be willing to compromise something that doesn't make you put you in a position of lack or abuse or anything like that. Because if you're being abused, you should never be in that relationship. That's not love. That's just really unhealthy abuse, actually. So we're not talking about that. But what I'm trying to say is there may be something in your life that you're not too keen on. For example, I don't like history museums. I'm not really into history. But I'm not going to die if I go to a history museum. It's not the worst thing in the world, right? And if I, with someone I love, even a friend, I've done this with friends, I've even done this as an asexual meetup, I will go to a history museum because I know that they like the history museum and I care about people. So if you know something, it makes that person happy and it's not going to upset you and it's not going to do anything detrimental to you, you're more likely to do that. But I do that for my friends as well. So friendship and love can be kind of like somewhat similar if you've got really close friends, especially for asexuals, because we don't have we lack the sexual attraction in general. We're not really interested in the genitalia of the person. So we're more likely to be focused on the other aspects anyway, the hobbies that interest the person. But I think when you have a romantic relationship, it's deeper because you want to touch that person more. You want to hold their hand. You want to hold them close to you. You want to kiss them. You want to cuddle them. You want to stroke their hair. You want to be more touchy-feely with them or sensual with them, if you like, especially if you're a sensual person. Although, obviously, there are exceptions. Some asexuals are touch averse. So, they don't want to do that. So that's, you have to understand there are nuances to this. But if you love someone, you really, although you'd be happy if they were happy with someone else because you're happy for them because you love them, you'd really think, I should be that person. I should be the one in the relationship with them. I should be the one going there with them. I should be the one looking after them. I should be the one, mopping their brow when they're having a fever or something. I should be the one that's like, if you like cooking, I don't like cooking. I should be the one that's cooking that meal for them. I should be the one that's there for them. I don't want someone else to be in that position. And if I go this direction in life, then it will take me away from the love and the connection that I've got with that person. Because obviously, if you are not right for a person, if you just like them as a friend or you don't like them enough to be in a romantic love relationship, you've got to understand that when they get a partner, they will be spending a lot more time with that person. They won't be messaging you as much. They won't be doing a lot of stuff with you. They might do some stuff still, but their partner will be their priority. Their kind of partner has to be their priority. It has to be a big priority. They'll still have some time for their friends and connections, but they will make that person their priority. So if you like to be that person's priority, but not in a selfish way, if you do it because you really love and care about the person, you can't imagine life without them. Say they got a partner and they did actually, not keep in touch very much, and you lost that person, contact with the person, you didn't have much contact anymore. How would that feel inside of you, If you're coming from a place of like, oh, I just hate it because I'm lonely, then that's not what I'm talking about. If you're just doing, you're just worried about not keeping in contact because you're lonely, that's not good. But if you're doing it from a place of like, I should be with that person, it's me who's got that connection with them, it's me who feels that way about them, and I really love them, and you feel maybe they do back, obviously, they have to love you back, then that's love. That's deeper than friendship. A friendship, you can let someone go. It doesn't matter so much if I don't tend to let my friends go if they're really close friends, I tend to keep in touch with them. But I'm saying you're more able to have some distance between you because you are friends. Whereas if you're in a romantic relationship or even a queer platonic relationship, you usually like more closer proximity with that person, right? Especially if you're romantic and need to kiss and cuddle. Like, you want to be in more physical, close proximity to that person. You want them in your life as a permanent feature, not just someone temporary for a few months or a few years. You want to make a life with them. You want to build a future with them. You see them in your future. You can't see a future without them in a healthy way. I'm not saying that you can't ever have a future with anyone else. That's not true. Anyone can get over anyone pretty much, but although there'll be a lot of people that still love their exes from years ago. But you have to move on. You have to be willing to move on and stop loving someone who's no good for you, for example. But if we're talking about healthy love and we're talking about the difference between friendship and love, it'll be the fact that you can't see yourself with anyone else. You can't see, maybe you had a life that you thought you wanted to live, but then you realise, actually, I want to be with that person because that's who feels right for me to be with. Jonathan, even as an arrow, it can feel frustrating living in a world where everyone has partners who prioritise at least the expense of friendships. At the expense of friendships, and thus you can feel excluded. Yeah, it's really, hi Joanna as well. It's really difficult, isn't it? I mean, it does feel, like I know, especially for asexuals, especially asexuals that are single for long periods of time and we don't get into relationships. If we've got friends that tend to, get in partnerships, they do spend a lot more time. I have a female friend now, but she is in a partnership. So when she sees me, it might be for an hour or 2 hours. It's better than nothing. But obviously she has to go off to be with her partner. So at least I'm getting some time. She still messages me, so it's nice. But obviously the people I've got as friends who are single, I can spend like hours with them because they don't need that time with their partner, and so it's hard. But I always say that if you really love someone and you want them in your life permanently, you can't see yourself being without them, then you know what I mean? It's like you've got to ask yourself, obviously there's compatibility issues. It's not just as simple as friendship, love, or infatuation. Even if you love someone so much in your deep, deep soul, but you're incompatible in your values, beliefs, your morals, particularly your life goals, your lifestyles, where you see yourself heading in the future, that's not going to work anyway. However much you like the person or love them, you're going to have to let them go and find someone else who's more suitable for you, that can be the love of your life, who wants to love the same sort of lifestyle that you want to love. For example, obviously, I like being up late at night, for example, I don't want marriage and kids, I even like to live separately. So, I'd have to find someone that fitted in with that lifestyle. that was able to say, hey, I like an upside down lifestyle. I like something that's different, you know? And I like quirkiness. It's different. It makes me feel energized that you live a different life, Sandra. I want part of that, you know? I want to be that team player with you that lives this quirky, unconventional, unstereotypical life. And they welcome that with open arms. You know, a person who loves you will want the excitement, not just for temporary relief like a fantasy, but they'll find it exciting to be with you. They'll appreciate spending time with you. They'll appreciate your quirky personality. They'll love you for who you are. They'll like you even when you're telling them the truth that they don't want to hear, because they'll be like, okay, I'm glad you're not bullshitting me. It might not be what I want to hear, but I'd rather you tell me the truth. Because in healthy relationships, you have to say the things you like about the person as well as the things you don't like so much about the person. You don't have to say, I don't like this about you, unless you want to say that if it's appropriate. But you know, you might say, I like this, but I'm not so keen on that, or I don't like this. But sometimes you just have to blatantly say it. Right, guys, if we're talking about women and guys, right, stereotypically, like women tend to like guys more that have some sort of caringness and protective, not possessive, but protective features, like being looked after, for example, you know, that type of thing. Where, you know, and guys tend to like a woman who's warm and caring, for example, and nurturing, but this has nuances as well, you know what I mean? But the guys, a guy who wants to grow with a woman in a relationship, he will like to be called out on his shit. So she'll be a person that doesn't just shake his shit and be a people pleaser and tell him everything he wants to hear. And also the guy's got to be someone who doesn't just tell the woman, yes, everything's okay, when he doesn't want to do something. He's got to actually speak his mind. Because this is what a healthy relationship looks like, rather than people just people pleasing each other when they don't really want to do that. But, you know, it'll be the fact that he can't see, or she can't see herself being with someone else in the future. She just sees like the life without that person in it is a life they don't want to lead, and they'd rather be with that person than be without them. Because let's face it, when they do get into a relationship with someone else, they aren't going to be in the picture much at all. Because that's a reality. I mean, you know, when they go off and have kids or marriage or whatever, a lot of those people aren't going to have as much time for the single asexuals or whatever sexual orientation you are watching this. You know, they're not going to have as much time for us. And we've got to accept that, you know, but also it's hard. I mean, I always want to keep my friends, even in a relationship. That's healthy. But they've still got to make space for that new love relationship in their life. They have to make that a priority, because if they don't, it won't work. You have to put some priority on that partner. I don't think you should exclude all your friends, but the person only has so much energy in their life, you know, so they can't give energy to everyone all the time. So they have to make, you know, priority. But prioritization would look like, you know, like phoning you up when you're not feeling good, despite the fact they got loads of work to do, or, you know, they are really busy. That's kind of prioritization. That's kind of a love thing, you know. If someone is willing to put you first when they've got a lot of other stuff going on in life, when it's not easy for them, then that's love, right? Love is when a guy, for example, will do stuff for a woman that he would not do for other women, because he really feels like committed to growing with her or helping her in her life. Do you see what I mean? I'm just giving you examples of different genders. You can be absolutely any gender. Swap it out for whatever gender you're attracted to. You know, usually a guy who loves a woman will go out of his way for her, even if he's really busy. He'll want to be there when she's not well. He'll want to carry her bags for her. He'll want to look after and care for her. Do you know what I mean? This is if they're a traditional guy, right? And or semi-traditional. And, you know, and a woman will want to like be close to her guy and have an emotional connection with him and stuff like that. So friendship and love can be very similar, and you can love your friends, but romantic love for those who are romantic rather than aromantic can kind of be another level, if you know what I mean, another level of connection, another level of wanting to spend time with that person, talk to that person, share your life with that person, be in that person's life. And, you know, that it's important. I see so many movies sometimes where, you know, you have a guy and a girl, and then the guy really likes a woman, but he doesn't tell the woman, or vice versa. And they go through the film and they end up with different partners. And at the end, they realise they're meant to be with each other. And they always knew that in the beginning, but they never told each other. So or they say no, this is not, we're not interested in each other. So they both go their separate ways, and in the end, it doesn't work because they come back to each other, and it's like, well, why didn't you just say in the first place, and that you want to be with that person? But it's not, life is not just as simple as that. If you've got different life goals, different lifestyles, want different things, then it's not going to work out anyway, however much you love that person. So compatibility is essential. But if you're discerning between like love and friendship in the romantic sense, then it's kind of like you'll go to the next level for that person. You'll do stuff that you wouldn't do for anyone else, right? You will go out of your way. Maybe you are needing to go to sleep, but say you're a guy needing to go to sleep, but you know that the girl that you love is walking home on her own in the dark, maybe from a club or something. Then you're like, I'm not having her doing that, so I'll go and pick her up to make sure she's safe. That type of thing. You'll go out of your way to do that. Maybe the girl's having a bad time. So, Jonathan, I find those movies painful to watch. Is so painful to watch? Is that because they don't actually get together, or they spend ages getting together? Because I'm a romantic asexual, so I like the romance side of things, but I find it's horrible when you have someone in a movie, you can see they clearly love each other, but they don't want to tell each other. And they just go all around the houses and go off with other people. And you're like, why are you with someone that's completely unsuitable for you? It's a bit like Frozen, isn't it? Anyone know the movie Frozen? So, when one of them so it's Elsa, what's the other one called? I can't remember. But anyway, one of them gets with the wrong guy, doesn't she? And the guy tries to kill her. And then she thinks Sven is not the right guy because he's kind of like very boring, if you know what I mean. More, well, she kind of sees him more as boring, I think, and more like, clumsy and more like normal. And then, she goes for the prince, doesn't she, who turns out to be an asshole, excuse my language. So, not realizing that the guy who isn't perfect, who has his problems, is actually the one for her because he cares about her on a deep level. He wants to get to know her personality. They don't always get on. They kind of have like tiffs or whatever. They kind of have like rockiness, but not to the point of unhealthiness. But they do get on really well. But she realizes that that's love. That someone who loves someone at their good times and their worst times, and who's there for them and really cares. Jonathan, yeah, I mean, movies where there's communication issues preventing the relationship progressing, yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard when there's movies where there's some communication issues preventing the relationship from progressing. That's why, like, in real life, I tell Guy if I'm attracted to him. I stopped doing this thing where I keep it to myself years ago. I don't do that anymore. I'm very different to probably the majority of the world population because I realised through my asexual journey that if I hold in my feelings for a guy, regardless of what he feels about me, if I hold my feelings in for him and don't tell him, that just makes the feeling stronger for him. And if he doesn't reciprocate, that's fine. But if I don't tell him how I feel, then there's no chance of something happening between me and him. And also, it amplifies the feelings. So whereas loads of people traditionally would keep their feelings to themselves, like say they loved a friend or had romantic feelings for their friend, more than friendship, they keep that to themselves for fear of losing the friendship. I believe if it's a good friendship, you can't really lose it. And so therefore, if you have feelings of romantic or attraction, you should tell the other person. Because in my experience, if I don't, it just amplifies it. It makes it 10 times worse. And if this guy, or well, in my case, guy, is not right for me, I'd rather find out sooner than later so that I can look for another romantic match. For example, the guy I spoke to earlier, like who we're just friends, we did talk about a bit of relationship stuff, but we realised that we're not suitable because we've got completely different life goals and stuff. But obviously I am attracted to younger foreign guys, and I did tell him that, like he's not my usual type anyway. I like clean shaven Indian guys, but he's not clean shaven, he's not Indian, but I still got on well with him, really well with him actually. But what I mean to say is I had that conversation with him and told him like I do have some attraction for him more than friend. I was honest about that, because if I don't say that, then he'll never know, will he? And he's going back to his country anyway next year, so nothing's going to happen. And he's going back for the summer. He's studying in my city. So, it's nice to have him while he's here. But, Jonathan, very much agree with that message. Thank you. But I just told him, and I tell whoever if I got feelings for them, because obviously I don't necessarily tell someone I walk down the street where I don't even know them and I haven't had a conversation with them. Do you know what I mean? I might say you look cute, but usually I don't say that. But if it's someone I've spent some time with, got some connection with, then I will tell the person because it's better. Because if I don't, I knew if I didn't tell this guy, I told this guy quite early on, but I knew if I didn't tell this guy, that would just amplify the feelings I had for him in terms of attraction. Do you know what I mean? And so it's not, attraction, bit of romance, that type of thing. But by telling him, it dilutes that, And we've talked about the fact we're not suitable because he's got his whole life planned out in his country, wants sex, marriage, and kids. The usual stuff that most heterosexuals, and he's not asexual. And so, I understand all that. And he has different, things he likes to do and stuff that's just very different to what I like to do. So I respect his differences to me, and we get on well, which is really nice. So he's very caring towards me, so I really appreciate that about him. And so so we went out for food earlier, but we established we can only be friends, and that's really important to do that, right? But if I hadn't told him that I liked him more than a friend, he would never know that. So he never, if he reciprocated that, then that would have been his opportunity to say something. But even if he did have any romantic or attraction feelings, it wouldn't work anyway because our life goals are completely different. So it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if there's attraction there or not. So sometimes in a friendship, you've got to say if you're attracted to the other person, maybe have some romantic feelings, maybe, or something like, or some definitely attraction. You have to say it, because if you don't say it, these things build up and it can cause tension between you. So it's better to say, even if you have attraction. I've had attraction for other guy friends before, and it's like, even if I have it, I'd rather say it because it minimizes it. So it takes the romantic aspect out of romance, if you like, and kind of puts it in a box more. And it's like, okay, like I can continue looking for my romantic Indian asexual guy. I don't actually know if I'd end up with an asexual guy. I keep thinking now it's probably, if I do end up with a guy, it might be a heterosexual. I don't know why. I've kind of like trying to, probably because the guy I was in a relationship with last year that didn't work out, he was heterosexual. But there can be weird things going on that, because it can feel a bit pressurizing, even though I don't have sex, they still like very sexual, some of those guys, obviously, so it's kind of hard sometimes. But, who knows? I mean, I'd love to be with an asexual Indian guy, for example, but the only Indian asexual guys I know, apart from two in the UK that I've come across ever, the rest are in India, so I don't think that's likely to happen. I think there's one who came on my YouTube channel a long time ago in comments years ago, but they smoked anyway. But they said, "Oh, I'm asexual. I didn't know that you liked Indian guys." But yeah, that was about it. So, it doesn't have to be an Indian guy, but that's usually my preference, obviously. But I do like other foreign guys as well. So I don't really, not really into British guys, and I love living in the UK. So so it's very important for me to tell the person if I have feelings, because it does diminish them, and then it gives them an opportunity to like you back, you know what I mean, or to be okay to tell you that they like you back. But if it's early days and you don't know each other that well, you haven't really built up that love feeling as much. It's more like attraction. Maybe it might be even infatuation. But I don't like to think of myself personally as being infatuated with anyone, because I like reality a lot, not, like fantasy. I'm not really into fantasy stuff. I don't even read fiction books usually, unless it's kids' picture books, because I like writing those, but I haven't got any published yet. But what I'm saying, it's kind of like I think sometimes if you just meet and you have attraction, that doesn't make a relationship. It doesn't mean it's love. You can only love someone who you want to